We're glad you came.
Are you recording us?
Pardon
Are
me?
you recording us?
I am. So, but don't worry.
Be our best behavior then.
Yes.
Does he get to do an introduction?
Oh, yes. Darren, we just finished introductions. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I would love to introduce myself. Darren Baylor, Mortgage Loans Northwest, residential mortgage broker, banker for about 18 years now. And it's still a good time to be a home buyer. Buy investment properties also. With clients buying rental houses. And yeah, Darren Baylor, Mortgage Loans Northwest.
An extraordinary golfer, apparently.
No, anything but today.
All right.
It was funny.
I'm going to ask you guys a question. Have you ever worked long and hard towards a goal only to find out that it wasn't what you envisioned? Me too. In fact, I spent 25 years climbing the corporate ladder only to find out that my ladder was leaning against the wrong building. And every time that I climbed a rung on that ladder, I think you can relate to this, I sold a piece of my soul to the corporation. And as I neared the top, I felt like this empty shell, unhappy and unfulfilled. And I could feel myself slipping deeper and deeper into a life of quiet desperation. But if you had seen me, you would have thought I had the perfect life. I had an amazing husband, I still do. An amazing husband and son. I had a beautiful home, an important job, and a big income. What you wouldn't have seen was that I worked 60 to 80 hours a week. I traveled 50% of the time. My marriage was on the rocks. My health was failing, and I had given up my personal life for a soul-sucking job. Why would you do that? Why would someone do that? The corporation wasn't requiring me to work 80 hours a week. None of my coworkers were working 80 hours a week. Why would I do that to myself? Well, I had well-meaning parents who drilled into me that nothing in life worth having comes easy. And so in order for me to be worthy enough to have all the success that I was having on the job front, but certainly not on the home front, I had to make that climb up the ladder really hard and difficult, or it wouldn't be worth having. Now, I know not everybody was raised in an abusive home, but I was. And love and approval were one of those, or two things that were conditional. So if I brought home report cards with all A's, or I was perfect, or I followed the rules to a T, I would get love and approval from my parents. But if I wasn't perfect, they would withhold their love and approval from me. And when they did that, it made me think that I was less than. And I had this inner critic inside of me that started talking to me on a regular basis. You're not perfect. You're not worthy. How can you believe in yourself when you're not worthy? And so this inner critic started talking to me and kept getting louder and louder and louder. And my self-esteem started to take a hit. And then I became this hot mess of low self-esteem, low self-worth, low self-love, and low self-belief. And I knew that something had to change. I even had my own love and approval as conditional. So let me give you an example. Several years ago, I decided to run a half marathon. Never run that far before in my life, but I'm going to run a half marathon. I actually followed that training plan to the T. I was ready. I got on the bus. Who's ready to run 13.1 miles? I was ready. And partway into the race, I got this really bad pain in my gut. What? Must be a side ache. If I keep running, it will go away. And I kept running, and it didn't go away. And I think I must have started to turn gray because one of the race monitors actually stopped and asked me if I was okay. If he'd had a car, I probably would have hopped in. but he was on a bike. I'm good. And shortly after that, I had to stop running. And I walked. And I walked. But you see, I was sure that I was going to finish that race in 2.5 hours or less. And if I kept walking, that wasn't going to happen. So I started running again. And then I had to walk. The last 3 miles was almost all walking. I crossed the finish line, and I looked up at the clock, and it said 3 hours. I was devastated. I felt unworthy. I felt like, why did I even bother? I didn't even think that I was worthy of this beautiful medal that they shoved in my hand, and I almost didn't take. I thought, why did I even bother? And my inner critic really became loud. And for 3 days, I let my inner critic take over my life and abuse me as though 30 minutes of extra time made me unworthy of this, of all that work that I did. You see, if I wasn't perfect, then it wasn't good enough. And if it was 2.5 hours, I would have said, I did it. It would have been perfect. But it wasn't. This conditional approval of myself was in all areas of my life, including my business, my marriage, my raising my son, my social life, which I really didn't have much of, and it made me a non-believer in me. It made me exhausted. It made me tired. It made me angry and resentful. And I realized that I hated my life. And the pain in my gut, it was a hernia. And so I had surgery a week later. So negative self-talk. This always makes you feel like you're unworthy or that you're less than. It's like a broken record in your mind. And after a while, it makes you stop believing in yourself. It makes you start thinking small. I had a woman who told me, I just want to be invisible. She says, my husband wants me to go to all these stupid parties with all of his coworkers, and I walk in the room, I find the biggest plant, and I go stand behind it hoping that no one will see me. And at the end of the night, my husband, he comes and he fetches me from the plant. And I'm like, why do you not want to be here? Why do you not want anyone to see you? So I'm just a housewife. These people all have big careers. I said, you're a housewife raising children, right? Yes. That is a career, by the way. And, you're raising the future generation that's going to run our country. Sounds pretty interesting and pretty exciting and pretty important to me. But she just wanted to be invisible because she didn't think she was worthy. So how do you know if you're suffering from unworthiness? Because there's a multitude of symptoms that come with unworthiness. And my feeling right now, and this is why I'm writing my book right now, is that I feel like we're having this unworthiness epidemic in our country. And if each one of us in this room would just help one person go from unworthy to worthy, from lack of belief to believing in themselves, we would live in a kinder world. So let's look at some of the symptoms that come with unworthiness. Lack of self-confidence. That's really no surprise. Negativity, perfectionism. Yeah, I had that one down to a T. I was always perfect. I was one of these people that when I had parties at our house, I would start weeks in advance. Sometimes we even put in new floors in the kitchen. And I had to have the perfect menu. I had to have the perfect layout, everything. By the time the party got there, I was so tired I couldn't even enjoy the party. And I don't know if it was perfect or not. It didn't matter. Another symptom would be inauthenticity, pretending to be something you're not. That was me. I would wake up in the morning, I would pour intravenous coffee into my body, and I would put on a smile, and I would go out into the world and pretend that I had it all. You can become easily overwhelmed, hopeless, depressed. You might live in fear. You probably experience resistance in all areas of your life. Somebody who's unworthy probably has a lot of problems making decisions because, oh my gosh, what if it's not right? What if it's wrong? It's not perfect. They attack other people and berate them to make themselves feel bigger and more perfect. They oftentimes are suffering from addictions. Food, drugs, and alcohol are the three everybody knows about, but there are other addictions like consumerism, social media, TV binge watching. Anything that you do in excess on a regular basis is considered to be an addiction. And addictions arise out of trying to fill a void in your body, whether it be self-love or self-worth or self-belief. And advertising is designed that way. You are only worthy. You will be happy when you buy this product, right? So how do you reignite your worthiness and your belief? Here's your first tip for the day. You get to monitor your self-talk. You get to change it from negative to positive. And what it's called start with the basics. Retrain your brain. You weren't born unworthy. You were born with loads of self-esteem and self-love and self-worth. And that flame has been inside of you the whole time, your whole life, but it might be kind of dim. And it's just been waiting patiently for you to reignite it, to see it, to honor it, to acknowledge it, so that the flame can get bigger and bigger. And when you start with your thoughts, it can be a little daunting. And if you're feeling unworthy, you're thinking it's overwhelming. After all, we have over 60,000 thoughts per day. Now this starts out with one thought. Change one thought from negative to positive, and then two thoughts, and then three thoughts, and then every time you get a negative thought, you just turn it into a positive thought. You reframe it into something that feeds your soul, that supports you, that lifts you up in the world. Now, even though I have been modifying my thoughts for decades, I still have thoughts that come up from my subconscious and take me out at the knees. I just had one last week and I thought, oh, holy cow, where did that come from? And then I realized where it came from and I went, well, we need to change that one. But what I want you to know is that you have power. There's power in your thoughts. They're like instructions that you send out into the universe. And the universe looks at this and it says, oh, she says she wants me to prove that she's unworthy. I will send her life experiences proving that's true. And even if the universe decided to send you life experiences that said you were worthy, you wouldn't be able to see them because you have blinders on. And you can only see what you expect. You can't even see all the possibilities that are out here waiting for you. So when you monitor your self-talk, you want to make sure that it empowers you and it doesn't take you out at the knees. You want to make sure it says what you want and not what you don't want. Self-talk is affirmations. They're either positive or they are negative. So let's look at some of the self-talk that I had from my childhood, my stellar childhood. By the way, I want you to know that I thank my parents dearly for my childhood because I was put on this earth to learn self-love, self-belief, and self-worth. Oh, and happiness, self-happiness. And my parents, because they didn't just give it to me, I learned it. So I have to thank them for that. But let's look at a few ones I had and how I turned them around. I had one that said, I'm not smart enough unless I get all A's. I don't know how that works in the corporate world, because we never got report cards in the corporate world, but that's what I thought. I only am smart if I get all A's. And if I ever came home with anything less, I wasn't smart. So I turned that around, and I turned that around to, I am smart enough. In fact, I have 2 college degrees and a lifetime of wisdom in this brain. And then I had one that said, I'm not worthy of huge success unless I give up my personal life, which I did for 25 years. And I turned that one around and I said, I am not only worthy of huge success, I'm worthy of all the goodness that the world has to offer. In fact, the fruits of my success can be used to find cures for diseases and stop conflicts in our world. That's very empowering to me. I had one that said, I'm not lovable unless I'm perfect. And I turned that around to, I am lovable the way I am. I love myself unconditionally, and I let others love me the same way. And that one my parents gave me that made that climb up the ladder so hard, I changed that to, everything in life worth having comes easy and effortlessly. And when you consciously monitor your self-talk, you are telling the universe that you are in control, that you are worthy, that you believe in yourself, that you're lovable, that you are open to opportunities. You stop giving your worthiness to things that are out here. What happens if you attach your worthiness to a person or a job, and that person or the job goes away? Guess what they take with them? Your worthiness. You're telling the universe, when you use all that positive self-talk, you're telling the universe that I want a life I love, not one I don't love. And you're being the creator of your life. Now, once you get the hang of reframing your thoughts, you can start looking at other areas of your life. My job was sucking the life right out of me. And I had a choice. Stay or leave. Stay or leave. Now you understand the unworthy soul has trouble making decisions. So let me tell you how I made this decision. As far back as I can remember, I wanted to grow up and be the CEO of a company. I thought CEOs made tons of money and they traveled the world and they used their gifts and talents for the betterment of the world. And I thought that sounded like a pretty noble job, right? And I knew that if I worked hard and studied hard and got good grades, not as perfect, that I would make that come true. And I aced my way through school and I landed a sweet job and I started my climb up the corporate ladder. And 25 years into my career, our country experienced a devastating disaster. You probably all remember 9/11. And business in this country went to a screeching halt. I personally went from traveling weekly to traveling once every 3 months. And you can imagine that over time, our company had to make some tough decisions because our profits were dwindling and that bottom line was a pretty dismal view. And this is when my boss called me and said, you have to lay off your entire North American team. Wow. These were people that I had handpicked. And they were top performers. And I had to call them up and tell them, you're losing your job, not because you're not doing your job, but because the economy is not doing well and the company didn't have enough backup reserves. And one by one, I picked up the phone and I called each of them and I laid them off. And when I was finished with that dastardly deed, I called my boss back and I asked her, well, now what? Am I going to lose my job too? And she said no. Right? But for the next year, I traveled anywhere they wanted me to go at a moment's notice. I could be in Seattle one day and New York City the next. I rarely knew what time zone I was in. And during that year, this is my thoughts. Julie, you have got to work harder. You've got to work longer hours, or you too could lose your job. You heard that, right? You too could lose your job. Now, I didn't realize that this is how I was making that decision about whether I was going to leave or stay. But 1 year later, I was invited to leave my job. Good job, Julie. The next day that I woke up, my self-worth, my self-belief, my self-esteem, they were all sitting back at the desk I left the day before. Ouch. That was a tough pill to swallow. So for 25 years, I felt like I was running on a hamster wheel. My work-life balance was out of sync. I'd given up my personal life so I could work more hours, and my work didn't bring me any joy or make me feel fulfilled. It was time to now start looking at what kind of life do I want to have, and what kind of work do I want to have that will fill my soul. And so the second tip today is you want to make a list. Make a list of what you want your life to look like, what you want your job to look like. I made a list. I put down things like I wanted more time to play, more time to spend with my family, more time for self-care, more time to travel for fun, not just work. I wanted my work to impact our world in a more positive way, and I wanted to be of service. I wanted to do work that filled my soul, and I wanted to use many of the skills that I'd already perfected and keep learning new skills. And my list got longer and longer and longer, and finally I thought, well, I have to do something with this list, right? Third tip of the day: identify action steps for achieving each one of those once, and then take action. I put play and self-care on my calendar, action steps. I scheduled activities and social events with my family. And I started looking at possible jobs that I would actually like, that would still give me time to have a life. I took baby steps each day towards all of these things that were on my list. And all of that positive self-talk that I sent out to the universe, all that retraining of my brain that I did, it paid off. I learned how to cook healthy meals. I started exercising, and I started scheduling daily self-care. We all need daily self-care. And from that list, it became clear that my job in this world was to be of service by helping others ignite their own belief and worthiness. That my job was to help women leave their soul-sucking jobs behind and create jobs that they absolutely love. I went from not believing in myself to believing in myself. I went from a soul-sucking job to one I love. And I went from a life of quiet desperation to one I can't wait to jump out of bed and live every day. Now, out of my desire to teach others about the power they have to create their lives, and out of my desire to inspire people to create the life they really want, and my love of speaking and writing, a new career was born. Author, speaker, coach. And my new title, CEO and founder. Now, what I shared with you today really is just the tip of the iceberg of my story from life of quiet desperation to one that I really love. And it is, it's what I want for everybody. I want everybody to believe in themselves. I want everybody to love what they do work-wise. I want everybody to live life fully. Now, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, how many failures you think you have had, whether you're rich or poor, or tall or short, it doesn't matter. You were born worthy, and you have the right to a life that you really love. You get to live a life you love, or one of quiet desperation. You get to believe in yourself, or you get to live the unworthiness cycle. You get to love yourself or not. The question to ask is, what is it costing you to live an unworthy life? What is it costing you to let your inner bully run your life, your mind? What is it costing you to not believe in yourself? So I have today for you, I'll pass some of these down for each side. I have Let's Stay Connected forms. And on these forms, I am offering you a gift from me. It is an AHA session. And you might be thinking, oh, what is an AHA session? Well, it's a private and confidential session with me where we peek under the facade that you share with the world and we find whatever's holding you back or whatever fear you have that's holding you back. It allows you to, we look at what you want. I mean, what do you want? Do you want a hot and steamy marriage? Is something holding you back from growing your business to the financial abundance that you wanted? Is there something that's keeping you from just plain enjoying life and smiling and laughing more? I know that sounds scary to look under the facade and maybe even uncomfortable. I get that. But it is one thing that could change your life, that could change the cycle, that could do something for you that would lead you to what you want. Would your marriage go from dark and gloomy to hot and steamy? Would your business grow to the next level so you have financial abundance? Would you start smiling and laughing more because you enjoy life and every precious moment that it has to offer? We all have blind spots. I have a coach that helps me find my blind spots, and we get stuck in our stories. We tell the same story over and over, and we do that. The universe says, oh, she still wants that stuff from that story. I'm going to send it back to her. So you have to tell a different story. And here's what I know. Even though it may be scary, this is an opportunity for you to do something different, to change a cycle, to get different results. I encourage you to be brave and schedule an AHA session with me. I also have a sign-up sheet of different times that you can sign up for. And if you want to receive this gift from me, just check that box on the Let's Stay Connected form. Any questions about the AHA session and how that works? Well, I want to tell you that it's been an honor for me to be here today and share with you my passion, my life goal, to help people see how worthy they are, to see their magnificence, to walk in their magnificence, to take action to do that. Because nobody on this earth was put here to live a life of quiet desperation. I hope I inspired you to, if nothing else, think about it, or to choose to do it differently, to do something differently. Because believing in yourself and loving what you do and living life fully, when you pay attention to those three things, you will totally change your life. And if you just feel like you're living a rote life now, pay attention to those three things and you can totally change that into something you love.
Very nice.
Does anybody have any questions?
So when you say you did, you started doing like daily self-care, is that talking about meditation or what?
My daily self-care for me is meditation and journaling.
Okay.
Okay, those are, and I also like to take walks in nature, and I do that most days of the week. Those are part of my daily self-care. I have other self-care activities that I do on an irregular basis. Like I get a massage at least every 3 or 4 weeks. That's self-care. Wish we could do that every day.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
You know, going to play golf would be self-care because it's walking in nature, right? And I no longer have to have the perfect score, so it's okay. Yeah.
I like scheduling, and I block off stuff like that on my calendar.
Yes.
To force me, like my gym time's my self-care, and I have
Yes.
on my calendar that this part of my day is going to be to go to the gym.
Yes, and that's what I tell my clients. You have to schedule it on your calendar, because if it's one of those things that, well, I'll get to it at the end of the day, it never happens.
You try to just fit it in, it just doesn't.
Right.
It'll never just come up.
Right.
Right, you do have to schedule it.
Yeah, you
That
have to
type of-
schedule
That
it
type of thing.
and create a boundary. Right. Any other questions?
Has anybody downloaded that Think Up app?
The what?
It's called Think Up,
I think it's
positive affirmations.
Oh, that sounds cool.
You record them in your own voice, and all you have to do is open your app and push the button and listen to them every morning as you're waking up.
My wife changed our iTunes account password. I can't download apps at the moment.
Aww.
Did you do that on purpose?
I guess.
One of
We have everything
my,
linked together, so if we buy any apps for the kids, all of the accounts are all run off mine.
yeah.
So she didn't have my password, and then so she needed to download something, and I don't want to.
One of my affirmations is I love my life.